Welcome to our show today in The Authentic Married Woman. We have a very special guest today who's going to be sharing his experience of what it's like to be with a woman when she has her walls up. And I'm Karen Seitz, the administrator for The Authentic Married Woman, and also the lead teacher at a New Life Center where I teach women how to take their walls down and find their happiness within so that they can create the marriage that they always dreamed of and have always wanted. And we're also joined today by David Cope, one of the founders of a New Life Center. Hi, David.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Dean.
Hi,
Thanks for
David. Hi,
joining
Karen.
us today. Appreciate it. So
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
My name is David Cope, and I'm a founder of a New Life Center with my partner Peggy Litt. And I got involved in relationships and how to create happy and loving relationships because I got divorced in the year 2000, and I was really committed to never be on my deathbed wishing that I had a loving and intimate relationship with another woman. So I've been working really hard on building relationship with myself and trying to discover what is the secret that makes a loving and intimate relationship. And at first, I read lots of books trying to figure out what I was missing and why I might have gotten divorced. But I realized that everything I was reading was the same thing that I was trying to do when I was married that never worked. And I kind of stumbled onto the realization is that to have a loving and intimate relationship uh, with another woman, I had to have a loving and intimate relationship with myself. I know that sounds kind of obvious, but that means that the intention and purpose has to be on me to build a relationship with myself and then take that into the relationship so I can be grounded in myself and be true to myself. So Peggy and I have been teaching men and women how to build relationships with themselves, to stay connected with themselves so they don't lose themselves in their marriage, and have a foundation of intimacy and love that they can bring to the relationships rather than looking for it from their partners. And how about you, Karen?
Well, I've been working on myself and building a relationship with myself and the way David was just sharing for the past 4 years and learning to take my walls down in my marriage. And as I've done that and been able to see and know what it's like having my walls up and what that does to my relationship, being able to work on that and take my walls down has completely changed my marriage. It often feels like my husband and I are newlyweds again,
Yeah.
and that we have the relationship I always wanted us to have. And I get
So,
touched when I share
yeah,
that sometimes because I
yeah,
didn't think it was possible.
yeah,
Um, and I'm proud of myself
yeah.
for how hard I've worked to get my marriage to the place that it is, and to also open my heart to my husband, who is a very good man, and let him back in. It's the most rewarding work I've ever done, and
Mhm.
I'm very blessed to get to teach women how to do the same for themselves every single day. And it's my favorite part of my day because it's so empowering, and it's so nice to finally have a roadmap on how to
Mm,
do this and know how to ride the ups and downs of marriage and work through the challenges and enjoy the good parts.
mm.
So that's a little bit about me, and I'm so excited to have Dean on today, and to be able to share this with the members in our Facebook group.
So, Karen, can you review our principles and then talk about a little bit about what our listeners can expect with Dean on our call today?
I can. So every video that we do or recording we do, we like to remind our members and listeners of the three guiding principles that are the framework for our Facebook group, and the framework for what we teach women on how to have a healthy, happy marriage. The first principle is that you are 100% responsible for your happiness. That happiness comes from the inside. It's an inside job, and there's nothing anyone can do or anything else can do to make you happy. That's our responsibility. The second principle is that you are the only one that you can change. And I know that sounds really simple, but we lose sight of that and often think that our husbands can change our experience for us, or if they would just change, then everything would be better. And that's a myth that we fall under and can't get out of. We've got to come back to remembering we only have control over ourselves. And when we can know that and live that, then everything changes for the better, that we can change our experience and empower ourselves to do so. And that being an authentic married woman is having a relationship with yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you like and don't like, doing the things that make you happy and that fill you up so that you can have a relationship with yourself, take your walls down, feel good about yourself, and then show up in your marriage with your husband in a whole new way that allows you to have meaningful, close, intimate connection in your marriage because you have that with yourself. And it has to start there.
That's exciting. Every time you say it, it feels like it's the first time I get a little goosebumps. Like, wow, this is very exciting.
It is. It puts us in the driver's seat. And if you're with a good man and you're a woman who have your walls up, this changes everything. You can have a whole new life and a whole new marriage. And so I get excited too, David, every time I get to share that. It's a simple roadmap, and it's one that takes a lot of hard work to implement. And so today we have Dean on. And Dean, thank you so much for coming on to share what you're going to be sharing, and that this might be a sensitive topic, that Dean's going to be sharing his experience as a good man being with a woman who has her walls up, and what that's like for a man. So I'll be giving this reminder throughout the interview, but I want to remind the members in our group and our listeners that what we teach is for a very narrow audience, in that or a very narrow framework, that what we're teaching is for women who have their walls up and are with a good man. And that's the perspective we're coming from today, and what Dean's going to be sharing about. And what I want you to keep in mind is that the reason we're sharing this today, and Dean's going to share his experience as a good man and what it's like to be on the other side of a woman's walls, is so that you can have the awareness around this and to know it's normal. That as women, we put our walls up and we push our husbands away or push our partners away, not because there's anything bad or wrong with us. There's nothing bad or wrong about you if you hear yourself in this experience. We put our walls up because we've gotten hurt in life. We've had our hearts broken. And so we begin to put, sorry, my headphone got stuck. We begin to put our walls up around our heart, thinking we're protecting ourselves. And that comes out in our relationship in very unkind ways. And so again, we don't do that because we're wrong or we're bad or there's something defective with us. We're scared and we're trying to protect ourselves. And that's our natural instinct, to protect ourselves, is to put our walls up. And we're teaching a different way, that there's a different way to show up in your marriage, a different way to show up in your life where you don't have to have your walls up. So we want Dean to share his experience today, to give you a choice and to give you insight that you might not be aware of, so that you can make a choice and you can see what it might be like for your husband on the other side of your walls, and what you're doing to yourself in that, so that you can maybe live from a different place.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. And thanks, Dean, for coming on today. You're very brave. Yeah. And so Dean took our relationship course from a man's perspective, and he had lots of good insights on what it's like for a man to be responsible for his happiness and be responsible for his relationship with himself. But he also learned a lot about women and how women react in relationships, and had a better understanding of why women act the way they do with good men when they with their walls up. So Dean, can you talk just a little bit about how you know yourself as a good man, And so women can get a sense of that's the premise, that women with their walls up with a good man. And first, what's the definition of you, or how do you define yourself as a good man?
Thank you, David and Karen. I'm really happy to be here. I learned a lot from that relationships course. When I think about what is a good man, I know we've talked about the basic qualities being that a naturally good man is consistently trustworthy, reliable, predictable, and also he is emotionally available. And some other good qualities of a good man are that he naturally has good intentions, integrity, honesty, responsibility, hard work, consistency, and healthy aspirations for himself, and also for the people that he loves, such as his wife, his partner, his kids.
So is that you, Dean?
I would consider myself an average good man. That for any listeners that to understand me and the perspective that I'm speaking from, I'm speaking from the perspective of a man that has, good intentions and is just an average good man.
And so, Dean, why is that important do you think, women to understand the nature of a good man in their relationship?
Yeah, of course. Well, I know that we talk about this not only for this interview, but broadly for Authentic Married Woman Facebook group, and the work that you all do is focused on women who have their walls up in relationships with good men. And so I imagine it would be helpful for women to have a structure to understand what is a good man versus how do I know if I'm with a good man?
Yeah.
So it would be helpful for a woman to know what are the qualities of what does a good man look like.
Yeah. And so, Dean, when you were so right now, you're, if I understand it right, you're not in a relationship with a woman, but you were in a long-term intimate relationship with a woman. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I took the class with David and Karen. And at the time I was in a long-term relationship. But I also realized the class applied to every aspect, from learning about how to be healthy in singleness, dating, relationships, marriage, and potentially having children. And I learned so much from the class, inspired by stories like David and Karen's, and that the core principles really apply to men as well. So in my relationship, I learned that all these core principles you harp on really do, and I'll touch on that more. And I respect any women that are here to listen to my story, because I learned so much in the whole process. I am no longer in a relationship now and I'm single, but I'm still learning so much, and it helped me be a healthy man throughout that whole process and now. And
so, Dean, what was it like living with a woman who had her walls up? How did you feel, and how did you act and behave as a good man, and how might you have changed in the relationship over time because you were with a woman with her walls up?
Yeah, that's great. That's really the main goals for me here, is expressing what it's like for me as an average good man to be in a relationship with a woman who has her walls up, and it's not and learning why women do that, and understanding it is they're not inherently bad or cruel, that they are just like anyone. Like, the reason I treat people badly is when I don't feel good about myself. And then so expressing what my understanding is, and then how I respond when, as a good man, I don't know how to handle that. So what it's like for me to be with a woman who has her walls up. Well, what it means for me for a woman to have her walls up is that the woman is mistreating or disrespecting or hurting me as a good man in subtle and overt ways. Some examples of that can be, overtly, there's some name calling or put downs. A lot of times that happens in private, but sometimes in public. Telling me things I need to change about myself is a way that, and there's a constructive way to do that, but unconstructively doing that can be really hurtful. Talking badly or negatively about me behind my back, especially to my friends and family or her friends and family. Acting a game of cat and mouse that Karen helped me understand. It's when a woman has her walls up, it's easy to reel men in and push them away over and over. So that's what I experienced in my relationship. That was really kind of the last straw for me, was that over and over she would reel me in, pretending that she wanted my affection, and then ignore me, push me away, bring me back in, and do this over and over. Another way that women act when they have their walls up that towards men is that they vent or complain at me, making it seem as though her problems are my fault, or that I'm responsible for them. Acting one way while we date and then acting a completely different way once we're married. So acting nice towards me and respectful, and then just, I've had friends tell me that just like she changed just all of a sudden. Refusing sex or physical intimacy is a way that women, or pushing me away when I try to show affection, is a way that women put up walls. Being sarcastic or ingenuine with me in communication, or acting bitter or jealous towards me when I try to do good things or things that I love to do, just acting resentful towards me. Turning my I know I don't have children, but I know turning people against me, such as my children, or contradicting me with my children. Ignoring me or being unresponsive is a way I know. Another example of how women act towards good men when they don't feel good and have their walls up. Getting upset with me when I offer solutions to problems. I know there's times when as a man, it's kind of how we're hardwired to want to offer solutions when a woman comes to us with her problems, and so it hurts when the woman gets mad at us for that. It's expecting us to read her mind is pretty common. That and then getting mad at us for not being able to.
So Dean, can I interrupt you for a second? It's like, good job.
That's it. That's it. I'm sorry.
I'm sitting here shaking my head because I know all of this.
Yeah, this is all the things they're saying are very common and things we talk about in our videos. But how does that make you feel?
Of course.
When, on the other side, when this is constantly, so what the women say is to themselves, and what the mind does is, well, I'm treating you this way because you're distant, you pulled away, and I want connection, and you're not listening to me. So they feel it's in response to your behavior. But what we're understanding, when a woman has her walls up, they're pushing men away, and their lack of communication and affection and interest is a result of the wall. How does it make you feel as a man when you're with a woman who has her walls up?
Right.
And do you have feelings? Because most women think men don't have feelings, and because they just take it over and over again.
Yeah, as a man, I know we might not show it necessarily, but we do feel it, and actually, we feel that as a good man, right? Yeah, of course.
That's your experience, Dean. Thanks.
Of course, yeah, of course. My experience is that it is similar. I heard it said that I'd rather be tortured in a prison camp than undergo the ways that my partner treats me when she has her walls up. And what that means, to break that down, is that, in a prison camp situation, we're expected to undergo. So it's expected. But in a relationship, it sometimes blindsides a man when this woman that he holds up on a pedestal and loves um, does the things that that I mentioned above, or does the things that are common when women have their walls up. And also another piece of that is for myself, I feel like I'm biologically as a man kind of hardwired to take heart the words and actions of my partner 10 times more than anybody else. So someone else could do or say the same things, but it hurts 10 times more when I hear it from the woman that I love and that I value. And it does feel like and I don't have anywhere really to go with it. I don't know how to handle it. And so I end up responding in potentially unhealthy ways because it gets either bottle it up. And yeah, I feel trapped and alone and confused that the woman that I love and value is, and I don't know what to do, or that I'm supposed to do something and there's no right way to handle it. So there's a lot of confusion and frustration builds up. That's how it feels.
Yeah, thank you, Dean.
I wanted to ask Dean something really quick. Dean, can you help our listeners understand why it's 10 times more hurtful coming from the woman that you love than anywhere else?
Absolutely. And again, this is in the context of me knowing myself as an average good man, that we do put the women that we love on a pedestal. I don't know if it's a biological thing, but I know that, so that's one reason, is that there's something almost innate to me as a good man, or just as a man, that I hear and I take to heart, just that because I put her on this pedestal and I love her and care about her and see her as this goddess and queen. There's a dissonance. So I guess the best way to understand that is that I see the potential and the woman that she is to me, and the woman that I know she can be, and then I see the woman that she is, the ways that she is acting towards me, and this gap for me that I don't understand. That's hard for me to understand why this woman that I know to be amazing and beautiful and strong and smart and just brilliant is acting this way towards me, maybe all, chronically, and I'm constantly in a state of bracing myself potentially against a woman that I put on this pedestal and that I value so much. And it's this, I guess the dissonance is what makes it 10 times more painful, seeing who she is and how amazing she is, and then seeing the ways I'm being treated. It's like I must be the problem.
Yeah. So Dean, thank you for sharing so heartfeltly. One of the challenges that the women have when they're with a good man is often the good man will respond to their walls up in a way that makes them feel like they're not loved or appreciated, and they don't get any affection. Can you explain why that happens? And
so to be clear, that women feel that they are responding in these ways because of something I'm doing. Is that
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So and that's how men feel too. I think that's where the confusion comes in. As a good man, I feel as if, okay, I'm doing something wrong. So, and I'm trying my best to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? Pretty much constantly. I think that's another characteristic of a good man, is that I will always assume I'm the one that's doing something wrong. I will always, it'll just be my first response is, okay, something's wrong with me. I did something wrong, but I can't figure out what, and everything I try to do to fix whatever I think I did wrong isn't working.
And Dean, what happens to you as a good man that when you keep thinking you're doing something wrong, what happens to you in relationship to the woman that you care about, that she thinks that you're distant and not available and not paying attention and not attuned to her?
I become those things. in a sense. So, like I said, because I don't know how to handle it, I respond in two ways that are unhealthy. So the first is either fighting back or becoming aggressive or mean. That's like the first way that when I get pent up or confused, I become, maybe I bottle it up for so long that it can kind of burst out of me in a form of aggression. For a good man, it practically, for me, it never manifested in physical aggression. I can't speak for anybody else. But I know that it gets very emotional because I do, as a man, have feelings and that I don't know what to do with. That's one way that I respond in feeling trapped, is I just get aggressive, maybe raise my voice or become irritable or angry or act out in frustration. The second way that I respond is hiding. So I'll just disappear. It's easier just to not have to deal with the frustration and whatever is going on. Examples of hiding for me are like drinking or smoking, leaving the environment where my wife is, not talking. So I'll just not talk. I'll go sleep more, working long hours, etc. And I think other ways that I can act out that I haven't acted out, but I know men have, is maybe having affairs or illness, hiding in my career, lying. I just feel, when I feel like there's no other option, then I'll do things that are unhealthy.
And
Thank you, Dean. That was very powerful.
yeah.
Karen, did you?
Oh, I had a question in that for Dean of, a lot of times as women, because of how we might show up in the relationship, might think that's retaliation or you're doing that on purpose or to come back. And can you help women understand more why you hide or fight back? Because I know it's not coming from that place.
It comes, yeah, right. I would agree. And it does help me lead to understand how I've changed and understanding my responsibility as a man. I think that's where it starts, is as a man, I don't understand what my responsibility is as a good man in a relationship. So I don't know how to handle it. So a lot of it is the ways that I act out, either by fighting back or hiding, comes from just not knowing how else to handle the situation. It's not necessarily a direct retaliation to what the woman is doing. It's that I don't know what to do with myself, my emotions. And until I learn a healthier way, which the classes help me get to, and I will eventually get to that as well, until I learn healthier ways to handle it and be a man in my relationship, I go to unhealthy ways of handling just my pent up feelings of pain and weakness and frustration and feeling bad about myself and confusion and fear even. Just I don't know what to do with them, and they manifest sadly in unresponsible ways.
Thank you, Dean. That's very heartfelt again.
Very.
Okay, let's get to the responsibility that you learned by taking the relationship class. What is the responsibility of a man in a relationship with a woman that you learned and been working on when she has her walls up? We don't use this word very often in the Facebook group, but the word we use is when women emasculate their partners, their men in their relationship. What have you learned now that your responsibility is as a good man in response to a woman that might emasculate or have her walls up?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And I think to answer it, it could be helpful. The way that I learned what it means to be what it are my responsibilities as a good man to myself and to my partner in a relationship was when I understood why women put their walls up and mistreat their partners. Was because I used to think, and Karen has reinforced this as well, that it's not because what I used to think was that the women were inherently cruel or manipulative and thought they were better than me and wanted to play games with me, and so I fought back and hid. But I can, through the course and through experience, I realized the reason women put up walls and mistreat partners is the same reason I mistreat people. That I can be a miserable, mean person when I don't feel good about myself. And I understood a new level of compassion that helped me understand my responsibility as a man. And so the way I view my responsibility as a man is it's very similar to what the women's responsibility is, but the way we apply and act is just a little different. The way we apply those responsibilities looks a little different. But number one is that I'm responsible for how I feel in my relationship. So that I'm responsible for being happy, and that when my partner is doing or saying things that because she has her walls up that are mistreating or disrespecting or hurting me, that won't hurt me if I'm happy within myself. So as a man, when I don't feel good about myself, I try to either go to a woman to see if she can if a woman's affirmation of me makes me feel better about myself, I can hide my insecurities, or maybe I can try to make her happy and then validate my worth. So I don't feel good about myself, but the problem is when I'm looking to a woman to make me happy or give me validation, when she takes that validation away or when I don't get it, I'm left with my own insecurities, and I'm responsible for those. No matter how my partner acts, I'm responsible for that. And I'm also responsible, when I realize that, I'm responsible for how I feel, and my partner is not. I understand that as a man in the relationship, I am responsible for then understanding what is reasonable for me to expect from my partner in a relationship. So some of those things are being respectful towards me, treating me at least as nice as she would treat strangers. That's a reasonable expectation. That she would stop playing the games like the cat and mouse or other games that leave me confused or bracing myself. And that she is responsible for her own happiness as I am responsible for mine, and that we're not giving each other the impossible task of trying to make each other happy. That those are reasonable expectations, and I'm responsible then for clearly and calmly and confidently expressing when those expectations are not being met, and standing up for myself and those reasonable expectations in a loving, supportive way, without being a jerk, but approaching it with a gentle strength and clarity. And that is the most loving, supportive thing I can do for myself and for my partner, because that's, I think, what my partner really yearns for without sometimes knowing, is that I am a man that sees her potential and says, I know what the reasonable expectations are, and that we're both going to feel better when we meet them, and I'm not going to settle for less.
Dean, if I can interrupt, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Because a point of clarification, women that have their walls up often tell us over the years that they don't respect a man in their marriage or relationship that allows her to dominate them and emasculate that it's very it makes them feel like that they're not a man. What man can't stand up to me I don't want to be with, and I don't respect. However, when a man takes responsibility for his own being a man and begins to stand up to the wife when he's being mistreated in a constructive way, often it causes the woman to be upset and angry and not like the responses of a man standing up to them. Dean, what is it what do you know is your responsibility to stand up as a man and be a man in relationship to a woman in spite of her unwillingness or reluctance for you to be a man?
Right. I because especially in I used to really grovel. It's something that I've changed a lot in myself because I used to grovel a lot as a man.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, good. In a constructive way. Yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Mm, mhm. Beautiful. Thank you, Dean. That's very powerful and very well said and clear. And Karen, can you
I
just
have
kind of
to
remind?
interrupt for a
Sure.
second. We're getting notices that we're having technical difficulties and that Dean's screen is frozen and they can only hear and see you and I, David.
Okay. So I think the best thing to do is just finish the interview, and we're almost done. And
Okay.
apologize that Dean's screen is frozen. What we'd have to do, well,
They
we could
can't
ask.
hear him either.
Oh, they can't hear. Oh, I'm sorry. Dean, could you go back, stop your camera and come back in? Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Give us just a moment. We're gonna
Thank you.
fix this technical
Yeah,
difficulty.
and thanks for our listeners and what and letting us know the problem. It's hard
Yeah,
for us to tell on this side.
yeah.
So Karen, can you, while we're waiting, can you just kind of give making sure the women are hearing and
Yeah.
listening? Oh, there we go.
Dean's back. So I'm going to ask our listeners, and if someone can comment, can you see and hear Dean and David and I now?
Dean, can you just say
Yeah.
hi to everybody
Hi,
again?
hey everyone, Dean here. Check, check.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. So, Carrie, can you just make sure that you're interpreting Dean and what he's saying of what a man's
Yeah.
responsibility and what you teach, and
Fine.
so there's a clarification
Sure.
from a perspective of what a woman should be hearing and listening to what Dean is saying.
Sure. So we're getting comments back. We're back. So apologize for that to our listeners. But like David said, I think it's a good time to remind the women who are listening that we're looking at this because we want to see a man's perspective on how they're experiencing themselves on the other side of a woman putting her walls up, and understanding how they react and respond to our walls being up, and how we mistreat men when our walls are up. And I want to make a point of clarification that until we slow down enough to see these things in ourselves and want to work on them, most of these behaviors are very unconscious. We don't have the awareness to see how we're showing up and mistreating our husband or our partner that we're with our walls being up. So Dean is so beautifully and in such a heartfelt way sharing his own experience of what it's like to be on the other side of that, and how confusing it is for a man. That Dean was sharing how the men that we're with, our husband or our partners, see us as these wonderful, beautiful, amazing women. And so when we act out in the ways that Dean has shared, then it's confusing to them of like, wait a second, what's going on? And they constantly internalize it to be, what am I doing wrong? And as a good man, they're constantly thinking that it's them. And unconsciously, we're acting in ways that make them feel that way. And so Dean's helping to shed light on this so we can have some awareness around it and start to show up differently.
And Karen, can you also share, when you work with men and teaching them their responsibility, can you share that from your perspective as a woman, what you're teaching men?
Yeah,
Just to
so
reiterate what Dean said.
yeah, when I'm working with men, I'm teaching them the same concepts that I teach women, teaching them how women put their walls up and what that looks like and the behaviors in that, and helping the men to see how because of that they feel small and weak, and that they feel small and weak because they're not standing up for themselves in the face of being emasculated or in the face of being mistreated by the woman they're with having her walls up. So they have to learn to take responsibility for what they're feeling and then show back up in the relationship and be willing to, in a constructive, like Dean said, a kind, compassionate way, to help a woman see when she's mistreating him or making him feel wrong or making him feel small and weak, and pointing that out so that she can begin to be aware of it more. And that was a really hard shift in my marriage. I don't remember exactly what David said, but I know for me in that, when I started to take my walls down and my husband began to feel safe in the relationship again, he began to feel safe to let me know when I was, one of my characteristics as a woman with her walls up that I know we all know is that I can be an ice queen, and I go silent and I pull away, and it's like he doesn't even exist. And he started to let me know when he was experiencing that. And at first, I threw a lot of temper tantrums, and quite frankly, I was pissed because I was so used to being able to act and show up however I want to, and he's not saying anything, and I can just do that. So when he started to say, no, we're not doing this anymore, this hurts, and he was very candid that you're hurting me, then I began to open up to that experience, and I actually began to respect him and be attracted to him again. When when he was constantly the source of how I felt, or kind of that's not the word I wanted to use, kind of the punching bag for how I felt about myself. And I unconsciously made him my punching bag. I really want the women listening to hear that. I unconsciously made my husband the punching bag. I didn't sit there and plot and plan and say, you know what sounds like a good idea? I'm going to take out how I feel about myself on my husband, and these are the ways I'm going to do it. That's not how it happens. We feel so bad about ourselves, and we can't see that it's us making us feel that way. We really think it's our husband or life or whatever it is. So we take it out on them. And I forgot my point in explaining that now.
But you're more attracted to your man
yes,
when
thank you. When he's
finally Yeah.
when he's the object of all my anger and pain, and in my punching bag for that, and I weaken him and make him small because of how I feel about myself, I'm no longer attracted to him.
Mhm.
Because through my eyes now, I am seeing him as weak and small, and I'm seeing all the negative things about him. So I'm not looking for any of the good. I'm not looking for any of the positive. I feel bad about myself. He feels bad about myself, and the marriage or the relationship is failing.
Yeah.
And that, so a man
And then
has
he
to
all of a
learn.
sudden becomes attractive and desirable and interesting.
Yes. Yeah. So as my husband
Fascinating.
started to stand up for himself, and this is the case with the women that I work with as well, as he began to stand up for himself and say, no, I know one of the things I teach men how to do is how to say, I know who I am. What you're telling me, what you're showing me is not me. And when he started to do that, yes, in the beginning, it was really hard. But I began to open myself up to that and realizing that he was doing it from a kind and supportive place, that it was him supporting himself. And in return, it supported me to start to see myself and start to change. So then I began to embrace it. And the result was, it was like I had I remember the first night I met my husband, I was just like head over heels, and found him so attractive and was just like, oh my gosh, he's it. And then all my problems started because I totally lost myself to try to be in the relationship. But I have that chemistry or connection, whatever you want to call it, I have that back with my husband because he feels safe, and he's a man and he does stand up for himself in it, again, in a gentle, constructive, kind way, and sometimes in a firm way, but I can feel underneath it, it's always coming from a kind place, and that he's doing it, he's fighting for us.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So
Yeah.
I
Thank
think
you,
that
Karen.
that
Yeah.
kind of explains where, if in case we cut out and you weren't
Yeah.
able to hear that part of what Dean was
Yeah.
sharing,
Yeah.
that's kind of an overview.
Thank you. Dean, can you kind of wrap up what message you want to give the women listeners in closing? What have you learned about yourself, and what have you learned about relationships from taking the course? And
Yeah, Karen, thank you. That was really powerfully put. I think said everything I said better than I could have hoped, and I am grateful also to any women willing to hear this or take it to heart. It shows a lot of strength and willingness to want to be a healthy woman, because I'm sure this isn't easy to hear. But I think the main idea is that not only in a relationship with a good man will a woman feel better about herself as she takes her walls down, as she feels better about herself, and she'll stop doing those things that she does with her walls up, and she'll feel better about herself. So it's a reciprocal thing. And there's another element too, that with a good man, I mean, you take one brick out of the wall and he will do anything. He'll forgive anything. As a good man, if a woman shows just even a little bit of respect towards me, especially after a long time of me having to brace myself, I will do anything. I'll forget. All of that's in the past. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what she's said or done or anything. The moment she shows even a little bit of respect. So the cool thing about that is that women also have a lot to gain from taking down their walls from the good man that they're in a relationship with. And so I want to encourage that, because I know some of this is probably hard to hear for some women.
Dean, can I ask you a little question off of that?
Yeah.
Can you explain from a man's point of view why when a woman starts to take her walls down and be responsible for her happiness, why that makes it so much easier for a man to show back up and want to be there and forgets everything?
Because the dissonance is gone. So I was talking about earlier how, as a good man, I put my partner on a pedestal as beautiful, brilliant, strong, and she is, as she closes the gap between how she's acting and how I see her. I mean, it's just like my heart is again, this might just be an innate thing to me being a man, but like watching my wife be the woman she can be, or watching my partner be the woman she can be, it heals anything. For as a man, it might just be I don't know if it's a biological thing, but as a man, all these emotions we didn't know how to deal with, it just heals all of that. It just and we also then have the room to be the responsible man we want to be. Naturally, is if we're good men, we want to naturally already meet that woman in a responsible place. So when she's being responsible, it opens us up to do and be the men we want to be too, because she's being the woman that she wants and can be. And it's just like, it's such a beautiful thing and healing thing for a man to experience that.
Wow.
Beautiful, Dean.
Right.
And can you real quickly give a quick overview of the man's responsibility?
Of course. Yeah. So as a man, I know we might not seem like it, but I have feelings, and I just express them differently than a woman does, either by fighting back or hiding when I don't know how to deal with them. As a man, my responsibility is to learn that I still need to do the things I love in my life, and I still need to, I owe it to myself to understand why my partner might be mistreating her and putting her walls up. And my responsibility then is to know what is reasonable to expect in a relationship, such as basic respect, and that the woman is being responsible with her happiness, and and I must be responsible with mine. So then expressing those boundaries whenever those expectations are not being met in a kind, loving, gentle, sincere way, but a steadfast and strong way, expressing that it's not expressing to her when those expectations are not being met, and that I'm not for her sake, because I love her and because I love myself and because I love our relationship too much to let it go down that path, I'm not going to budge. And I need to express to her, no matter how scary it is, I love her too much to let her keep feeling this way about herself, and to let her keep treating me in a way that's going to make me act out in ways that are going to make me not such a fun husband or partner, and gives us a foundation for which we can have a healthy relationship. And I refuse to sacrifice that in order to avoid feeling scared or avoid having to confront my partner.
That was beautiful, Dean. Yeah.
And yeah, if I may just say how grateful I am as a man to have taken this course from a man's perspective. If it would be helpful to express the ways that I've changed as a man.
Okay, great.
Not from every aspect of being single, dating, relationships, marriage, even children. I used to, frankly, carry a lot of resentment towards women, and it's kind of an understatement. I had built up so much resentment because I didn't understand why women treated me that way. Now that I do, I have just a genuine sense of compassion, and I'm not so bothered. When a woman mistreats me, it actually gives me something to either, if I do feel bad, then I know I need to work on something because she's just revealing my own insecurities, and that makes me stronger. Or it just doesn't bother me because I know it's not personal. She's not attacking me. She just doesn't feel good about herself. And it's changed my paradigm from women in general, which is big. It's kind of hard to be in, even date or have a relationship if I'm going around, resenting women. I had a lot of baggage around dating and relationships because I kind of thought of marriage as merely being trampled by a woman. So why would I want anything to do with like marriage? And why would I want to be her with an ice queen? How do I know she's not going to just change and be all nice to me when we're dating? And then I was just scared. But now that I understand these concepts, I've become open and excited about dating, relationships, marriage, and even maybe having children someday. And that was never on my I was scared of all that before. I used to feel bad about being a man. Just that there was something wrong with being masculine, and I wanted to hide my masculine gifts and qualities because I just got the message that because I am a man, something's wrong with me. And now I'm open and enjoy and appreciate the qualities I carry, especially as a good man that is trustworthy, reliable, and has good intentions and a good heart. Mm-hmm. That I want to promote and use those qualities to be a great, happy, healthy man. And I don't feel ashamed of my being a man. And I used to think that a powerful woman meant a woman who was cutthroat and ruthless and can make men feel bad about themselves. And therefore I didn't have much respect for women, because all I knew about women was that the strong ones are ones who are just going to make me feel small and weak and stupid. And now I understand that a truly powerful, empowered, strong, wise, authentic woman is a woman who takes responsibility for her own happiness, and then understands that if she does that, she taps into the gift that women have to control the entire atmosphere and temperament of her family. When she's with a good man, he will follow her wherever. When she's being happy, she's going to find that her whole temperament of her whole family tends to follow suit. And because I've realized what a good, strong, powerful, authentic woman is, I've really discovered in myself a deep, humble, and profound respect for all women, that I never really thought I had. I was scared of women and resentful, and I have this respect and gratitude for powerful, responsible women, authentic women. And as a man, I put these women on a pedestal and would do practically anything for them. So that goes back to I think the conclusion. I used to always be nervous around women. I no longer worry about what women will say or do, because I know I'm responsible for my happiness. I thought standing up to a woman or not groveling to them made me a toxic man and toxic masculinity. I now see that when done lovingly and clearly, standing up to the woman that I love is the most loving thing I can do for myself and for her. So in conclusion, a healthy relationship and partnership and marriage is one where each partner, as a man, I'm responsible for 100% for my relationship, and as a woman is responsible for her happiness in a relationship, and happiness and health is 100% each partner's responsibility. And I demonstrate that by standing up for my values and standing my ground for who I am, and shouldering the burdens of my family willingly, taking care of myself, and upholding the reasonable expectations for my partner. And that a woman demonstrates being responsible in a relationship by feeling good, taking responsibility for feeling good about herself, mm-hmm. and taking down her walls and refraining from pushing her partner away, and not expecting him to change and make her happy, And so that's the whole.
Good job, Dean.
Beautiful. And I want to share a comment from our Facebook group, Dean. So I can't see who it is. It's anonymous, but it says, "Thank you so much, Dean. It hit me so hard to hear you say that good men see our potential. That feels like such an honor to be with a man that sees my potential and wants me to reach my potential as a good woman." Mm-hmm. And I want to make another comment real quick, that the women that I work with, the majority of their husbands don't come through the program Dean came through. That these things that Dean has shared and the changes he has shared are natural in him as a good man. And so the women I work with, when they just work on themselves and they just take their walls down, and I say just, it's hard work, but take responsibility for their happiness, and they're with a good man, which it might be hard to see that because you've been pushing him away and he's responding and reacting and you think it's him. But as you change and he's a good man, he will naturally show up in this way. It's natural in them as good men. And I just want to really emphasize that.
Thank you, Karen and Dean. And just one more point, I know it's gone a little long today, but it's all good stuff, is that Dean, when we started, you said you're an average good man. So what that means is there isn't anything special or unique about you, and that if a woman is married to a good man, she can reasonably expect the same feelings and thoughts and sensitivities that you're sharing, because you don't see yourself as special or different than any man that you good man that you would know.
On the contrary, my experience, I'm realizing, is very common. I thought that I was alone in all of these experiences, but there's a lot of men just like me, with just good intentions and good hearts that just want good things and want to know that we're good men. And I just want to say thank you. It's been really healing to go through this class, to apply it to my life and experience the gifts there, and then to be able to come here and share it in a way that hopefully will help women feel what I get to feel as a man now, as the healing and the empowerment that I never would have gotten to experience, and to be the man that I know I can be. And I just hope women can experience what it's like to be the women they can be and we see them as. And that's just I'm really grateful to have been here. And no, I'm not any different or special. I'm actually, on the contrary, there's a lot of men like me out there, and more than likely the women listening are probably married to a man similar to me. And I'm excited for everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Wow.
Karen, can you wrap up for us? Thank you.
I can. Dean, thank you so much. Just, I'm very touched by how heartfelt and open you were in this interview. It's always a helpful reminder for me as a woman to know what the experience is for my husband when I have my walls up, and also how I'm hurting myself in that. So just thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with all of us. And if you're listening and you're feeling kind of awake now of what your husband might be experiencing, and you know you have your walls up, and you've tried everything, you've tried marriage counseling, you've tried individual talk therapy, you've done all the self-help, you have all the books, and you're still feeling trapped and disappointed and frustrated in your marriage, I understand. I've been there. And that's what I help women to overcome every single day, teaching the concepts we've been talking about. So if you're interested to get clear on why you have your walls up and get out of the stories and learn about what you can do, let's just have a conversation. You can private message me on Facebook, and we will set up a free call and get really clear and very candid. And if we're a good fit to help you, then we'll talk about how. If not, that's okay too. I promise you will get so much value out of just having this conversation. So I would love to hear from you. And again, Dean, thank you. David, thank you as always for being here. And Dean, anything else you want to add?
I do. I just want to say to anyone that is listening in that you're in really good hands with Karen. And David have been both an incredible inspiration for me throughout this process. They're applying it to their own lives, so you know that they're speaking from a place of experience and a really strong foundation. And thank you to them. And I know that anyone can experience that liberation and freedom and healing that I have gotten to experience in my own life by working with you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dean. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Karen, for doing the amazing job you do helping women find happiness with themselves and a fulfilling marriage and life that they know they deserve and can have ahead of them. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Thank you.